Welcome back to a professional match of StarCraft 2. Today it's time for a best-of-3 series of Terran versus Protoss, where in game number 1, we find ourselves on the map 2000 Atmospheres. Now, spawning here in the top right-hand corner and playing with the blue SCVs, we have none other than Gumiho. If you've been subscribed to my YouTube channel for a couple of years, which, by the way, I highly recommend, I might be a little bit biased in this matter. Anyways, if you've been subscribed for a while, you may remember that Gumiho is one of my favorite all-time Terran players in the game. However, he announced back in November 2019 that he was going to start up his mandatory military service over in South Korea. And oftentimes when that happens, pro gamers do not return after completing it. However, on the 1st of July, so just a couple of weeks ago, Gumiho tweeted that once again he is back to the game after completing his service. And today, yeah, we're going to see him face off in a best-of-3 series against none other than the Red Protoss player here from the United States of America. His name is Astrea, one of the very best Protoss players on the planet. So we'll see exactly how this series is going to go for Gumiho. So this one was played during the ESL Open Cup number 79 about a week and a half or so ago. So quite literally, like, I want to say a week, maybe 2 weeks into Gumiho announcing that he's back to the game. So, I'm not entirely sure how good he currently is. I mean, obviously, even though he was in the military, I'm sure they get time off, right? So, maybe he did get to practice a little bit here and there, but there's no denying that he's probably going to feel at least a little bit rusty. I can't imagine. Maybe not. Like, every once in a while, for example, I know Sue, who's currently in the military. Every once in a while, he, like, pops up on the ladder in one of the highest positions in Grandmaster League on the Korean server. So, by the way, is he going to go full cheese? Alright, so we have a proxy barracks, and then we also have a proxy factory right now. Astrea is scouting around the main base. He's obviously noted the orbital command, so he knows there's a barracks out there somewhere, because you need to have a barracks out in order to make an orbital. He's also seen the double gases, so he knows that something is not quite right, because there's no production structure right here, other than the command center, I suppose, for the Terran player on this site. Now, he doesn't know exactly where they are. Anyways, he's going to have to deal right now with the very first unit inside of his main base. Is he going to proxy the starport then as well? Is this really going to be the very first Gumiho I'm casting again? Where he's going to proxy literally all the things? That would be... Yeah, he is. That would be kind of fun. So Gumiho has always played the game differently than, say, for example, like a TY or a Maru or an Innovation, who, by the way, also recently left, which kind of sucks. Innovation, that is. TY is also currently in the military. Anyways, yeah, we're getting to the point where, like, the StarCraft pros are getting a little bit older, right? So, I believe if you're born in the year 93, you have to start up your service this year if you're a Korean citizen, so. So, I guess at this point, right, since StarCraft 2 is, like, 11 years old, even though these guys have been around for a long time, they're also getting older. Anyways, so Gumiho has always been playing, for example, Gumiho was playing mech far before it was cool, okay? Like, at some point, mech became quite popular to play, but Gumiho was really, like, the one that started, for example, that Cyclone Hellion meta, and he was playing mech in Terran vs. Zerg for quite some time. Not entirely sure how he feels about the game right now, but apparently, yeah, he's quite cheesy in this matchup, at the very least so far. Tech Lab also right now on the factory, by the way, so it's going to be a medevac and then 2 of these Widow Mines. Obviously, he's going to try and drop his opponent's main base, right? Or at least one of the mineral lines. Where are we going to go? Main natural? I don't care. Make a pick. Phoenix over here hallucinated by the sentry, which I actually really like. Can chase him around for quite some time. Doesn't deal any damage, but it does give the Protoss player the exact heads up of what's going on. So he's just going to fully wall himself in right now, just focusing on making a whole load of units. I think that's a good choice. Can he actually get the... Okay, he gets the medevac. Yeah, this is not what you're looking for here. Okay, probe gets pulled away from the mineral line. And so far, this is really not worth it. I mean, the thing is, Astrea is on 2 bases, right? So he doesn't even need to take super efficient trades. Oh my god, that Reaper Grenade just helped that Stalker! Hold up, I'm gonna back off. Look at this Reaper Grenade. That was the craziest Reaper Grenade. There it is, there it is. Whoop! Luckiest Stalker in the universe. That one would have died if it wasn't for the Reaper. Anyways, while this is all going on, obviously Astrea has got way more income. He just needs to be careful, though, because if he loses these production structures at the front, so the Robo is already gone, this could be a bit of a problem. He's going to just warp in a couple more Stalkers. At some point, he's going to have to commit. He might even want to pull a couple of the probes as well. Gumiho just going full cheese right here in the very first game. Here I am, hyping him up. Yeah, pulling the boys away from the middle line. I think that makes a lot of sense. Just try and soak up a little bit of that damage. Siege tank gets targeted as well. The Reaper grenades still deal a lot of damage, but now the probes are in the front, and the probes obviously can tank a ton here. Nice move. The 2 gateways are still up as well, so he continues warping in. And at this point, Gumiho is in a little bit of trouble, I'm afraid. This almost feels like a little bit of disrespect right here from Gumiho, right? Wouldn't be surprised if Gumiho is like, who's this Astrea guy? Never heard of him. Who's this? I'm just gonna like, you know, play a quick game number 1 to see where we currently stand. I'm not sure if that's going on. Maybe I'm looking into it a little bit too much, but Astrea obviously very, very good at the game. Astrea is still a relative newcomer though. At least if you compare it to like some of the names that have been around for a long time. So it makes you wonder if maybe Gumiho is just not familiar with him. Either way, he's not done yet. A couple of zealots are moving across. They're gonna find a command center that's about 3/4 of the way done by the time they arrive. Robo facility though. I mean, this should be a really good position for Astrea, right? I mean, he's mining way more. Ooh, he's just gonna bypass it entirely. Yeah, makes sense, I suppose. There's really not that much available at this point for the Terran player to deal with those 2 zealots. Mining time lost is also huge. Yep. I'm afraid that these kind of builds aren't gonna work, Gumi. You can give it a try. But even though Astrea didn't really know about it until the factory was already done, he seems just fine. Battery overcharge right here being utilized as well. I love that shield battery positioning right there for Astrea. Putting it out in front of his natural expansion, which is a bit of a vulnerable position, but it allows him to push out of his natural and actually fight this Terran army straight up without being forced to like funnel through his own, you know, structures there. GG is called, and game number 1 goes in favor of Astrea. All right, so just because I was curious, it turns out they have played against each other before. Gumiho ended up winning in August 2019 and once again in September 2019 as well. So it's not like Gumiho is just, you know, straight up disrespecting his opponent here, because I believe this is one of the earlier rounds of the event. And usually, if you face off, I've had this happen myself as well, back when I used to play a bunch of those online events as well. But usually, if you face off against a pro gamer in one of the first rounds, they'll just end up cheesing you. It's not that they're being a jerk, I suppose. It's just that they can't be bothered playing the really long games. They can win in the longer games, pretty much guaranteed, right? But they also, you know, they have to think of like stamina, and they don't really want to waste too much mental space hanging out in like hour-long games in a best-of-3 series in the round of 64 or 128 in a tournament, right? So usually in the earlier stages of an event, pro gamers, if you ever face off against them, they will generally cheese you. So you know, you get excited because you're playing Clem in round number 1 of the ESO Open Cup and he just proxy Rex rushes you. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if he does that, but I wouldn't be surprised at all. Just get the games over with. Fun fact, by the way, about Gumiho. His nickname is the Towel Terran. I always thought that that was a pretty funny name. Turns out you know, the reason for it is not actually that funny. Turns out he apparently has a condition where he has excessive hand sweating. So whenever he plays in offline tournaments, he generally speaking has like a little towel over his mouse. So I don't know if he always plays like that when he's at home as well. But yeah, that's why people call him the Towel Terran, because he plays with a towel over his mouse hand, which seems really inconvenient, by the way. I feel like I would get like the towel stuck underneath my mouse 17 times a day and it would drive me nuts. Either way, Gumiho has been playing like that for a very long time. He always used to play a lot of these smaller online tournaments as well. Like, he's won dozens and dozens and dozens of them. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we're once again going to see him participating in quite a few of these, which I'm excited for. Either way, more of a standard opener this time around, which I think makes a lot of sense. Astrea right here, going for the standard opener too. Chrono boosting out the very first adept to make sure that he's got some counter right here to that Reaper man. Ooh, nice anticipation there by Astrea, although some miscontrol there. Could have easily had the Reaper. That sucks. That's a mental advantage right there for Gumiho, who was definitely not supposed to go out. I guess they were busy looking over here in the natural as well, so the shade went just barely in the wrong direction. Now, what are we doing here, Mr. Gumi? Really? So Astrea sees this right from the get-go. He's rushing out a few Marauders. Now, that's not normally what you do. If this is a Stargate opener, you could actually be in some trouble. Marauders with concussive shells, though, can be quite scary. It's gonna be a Twilight Council right here from Astrea. I mean, if he wanted to go for the Stargate, he probably would have tried to rush it out a little bit quicker. So Twilight is not too crazy. Guess that's maybe also the reason why he decided to go for the Marauder approach, although I guess he committed to the tech lab there. Oh, oh! That Adept was ready to shoot. She was already in the attacking animation right there, but then it got cancelled because the Reaper just barely went far away enough. Anyways, I think he started up the tech lab right here before the Reaper Scout went into the main, though. I'm not sure. Probe already headed on over to the third base location. Yeah, Gumiho seems on point, right? It's always impressive to me. Like, when I don't play StarCraft for like 2 weeks, I feel like I lose like 500 MMR. Genuinely. Now, obviously, it comes back pretty quickly, but I play like a toddler who's like just learned how to walk or whatever, you know? Like, I'm just... My hands feel really slow, and I'm like fat fingering my hotkeys, and in general, I don't know. I feel really slow and sluggish. Usually for me, it takes at least a couple of days of grinding a bunch of matches again before I get back into the swing of things. I can only imagine if you can't regularly play. Like, maybe, I don't know how much time off they have, right? I think it depends on, like, what branch in the military you're on. I remember, who was this? Was it Polt? Maybe it was Polt. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it was Teja. Anyways, I know one of them was, I think, serving as like a police officer or something along those lines in the military, which I believe was like an option. And apparently that was like the one branch where you had the most time off. So if you wanted to be an efficient pro gamer and you just had to get the military service over with, apparently that was one of the options. Either way, the medevac right there was spotted. So this should never deal any damage. Astrea is just going to patrol a couple of stalkers back and forth. Nicely done right here. It's important that you don't all-army hotkey your stuff. In general. Especially as Protoss, though. You can't really afford doing that. Gumiho is nice and turtled up right now on the bases that he's got, though. He wouldn't really die to anything in particular. Observer is coming out as well. Where is it? There it is. Mr. Observer. Are we just... Ah, okay. I was going to say, are we just going to hang out over here? Having a little bit of detection available, or at the very least keeping track of where that medevac is at, is useful. I like how Gumiho is just leaving it over there, though. This is so silly, right? So it becomes a complete anti-timing, where technically speaking, this Widowmine drop should not deal any damage. Because he scouted it at the earliest possible moment, right? With, I believe, an hallucinated Phoenix. So this shouldn't deal any damage, but he's just, you know, he's just leaving it out there. Okay, Stalkers get into the main base. Are they going to be able to get rid of that that upgrade? SCVs are trying to repair it, and this is what I'm talking about. So even though the combat shield upgrade right there gets denied to Gumi... Oh, no. The Widowmines still get in. Poor Astrea. Astrea is so busy microing those Stalkers, he decides to recall them right now, but those 7 probes aren't going to come back. The rest of the Terran army is quite close to the front. Shield battery is set up. Battery overcharge already utilized. Siege tank in the back. This is a scary force. Gumiho, once again, by the way. Pretty committed, right? We see barracks number 2 and 3 right now added on as well, but no third command center. So this is once again, there's finally the third CC. This is once again Gumiho committing to some aggression. Observer over here scouts everything that's going on. He's gonna see the third base too, okay. Okay, you heard the little... That was my best impression right there of that super high squeaky noise that the observers make when they siege up. Storm is going to be coming here for Astrea. He's desperately trying to chrono boost it out, but that is a huge Terran army. I kind of want to see Gumiho committing to the other side of the map. The longer you wait, the more difficult this is going to be. Prism is going to be available too, okay. Prism to, I guess, lift up the High Templar and get him into a better spot. Charge is done. Blink, of course, is also done. We don't quite have the upgrade yet, though. Like, Sonic Storm is a while from finishing. Love the Widowmines right there in front of the siege tank. So if the Zealots decide to charge here, they're dead. Well, there you go. Most of them died anyway. Quite a few actually still remained. A lot of Marines and Marauders distracted from the rest of the army. Widowmines are going to be still available. Storm is finally done. Okay. Astrea should be able to clean all of this up. Yep. These are the scenarios where you wish you started up that Storm upgrade like 10 seconds earlier, right? I mean, it's difficult to afford, obviously, but it makes you wonder if you could, like, cut a Stalker or two just to grab it ever so slightly quicker, because then you wouldn't take any damage here at all. This is annoying. Where'd the observers go? There's still one of them available? Okay. The 4 Widow Mines, you can see the little holes right there, so they're gonna be taken care of eventually. Zealot over here will be warped in. He needs to get rid of the Widow Mines first. Yeah, it's gonna be difficult to go over there. Storm is available, of course. Not gonna happen. Try to storm the weak HP medevac there, but just barely not enough. Alright. Ghost Academy comes up. Barracks number 4 and 5 already done. Tech lab and a reactor. Once again, Widowmine drops continue. Oh, he's retargeting. Manually retargeting right there with the Widowmine, trying to go for the juicy hit. Ended up getting absolutely nothing because of it. Well, he got 2 workers, I guess, but this one over here killed nothing. As it targeted one of those probes that was trying to go into the gas geyser, and it successfully managed to do so. Alright, so even though Gumiho is playing an annoying style so far in this series, Astrea seems to be able to defend it just fine. I mean, he's taking a bunch of damage, and this is definitely, well, it's actually 20 workers. It's more than I thought. I guess it was also those Marines and Marauders in the natural, right? They get quite a lot of work done. Anyways, it seems like that is the approach right now that Gumiho is taking, right? Just play as annoying as possible. I think it can work really well against weaker players, but I'm not 100% sure against players that are super high up, like, for example, Astrea. Now, this is a really good fight right here for the American Protoss player. He's getting some storms right now into the mineral line, too. Okay, sure. You wanted to kill some workers, Gumi? Let me show you how it's done. Took you like 8 minutes to kill 20 of mine. Here. I'll kill 19 of yours in like 10 seconds. See how you like it. Alright, and now all of a sudden, the supply count is looking a lot more even. Worker count slightly in favor of Protoss, who's now also going for a 4th base. I think Ghosts are going to be very helpful. So Ghosts, of course, have a skill called EMP. EMP is fantastic when it comes to dealing with Protoss units. So Archons, for example, have 350 shields and only 10 hit points. So an EMP basically removes most of those shields. And obviously it also gets rid of the... He's already got a couple of them. It also gets rid of the energy on both sentries and then also, of course, the High Templar, which is really helpful. Unless the High Templar are inside of a prism. So even though you can EMP the War Prism here, it does not remove the energy out of the High Templar that are inside. It's just that obviously if you want to now make use of those High Templar, you have to like drop them off first. And I guess go for some additional hotkeying. Once again though, Gumiho trying to go for a push here. Now there's Liberators into the mix too, which I really like. Decking up the army, okay. Picks up the units once again so they can't get EMP'd. There are a few Ghosts available. Without splash damage, by the way, this Protoss army just gets murdered. So the High Templar are super critical. Okay, battery overcharge once again utilized. Drops off another one of the Templar. He's trying to build on that economical advantage, right? So right now he's like 18 workers up on his opponent. Just like in the first game, he's just trying to deal with reinforcements, I suppose. Okay. Ooh, feed back the Ghost there, which is not something we see that often. Thought he wanted to go for a juicy storm. So far, the storms have been very slowly paced, right? Which I really like. That's the way to do it. Just buy a bunch of time. Immortal comes up. Okay, I guess that makes sense, but Gumiho has arrived right now as well with the reinforcing units. Energy is not infinite. Okay. You can't really go through the choke very well. Knocking down the rocks makes a lot of sense. This Ghost doesn't have energy right now for the EMP skill. Man, Astrea is a patient man, isn't he? It is so tempting to just charge forward. He's just slowly, steadily approaching this fight. I don't know if it's the best approach, but... Oh, trying to buy as much time as possible. Okay, now those storms are huge. It's an absolute minefield out there, though. As soon as you commit with the Star or with the Zealots, they're going to be dead. These are some very efficient trades. Like resource lost-wise, It's not looking so amazing, I guess, for Protoss. I'm not sure where it was at before this battle, but I think these fights have been decent. Okay, well, this is the moment apparently where Astrea decides to commit. Those Liberators up in the air are shooting away and killing tons of Protoss units. Ooh, I don't know if that was actually the best move. Now all of the High Templar are gone. Immortal also got picked off, so those Marauders are going to have a field day going through all of the Zealots and the Stalkers. The Widow Mines, though, they also dealt a ton of damage there. Maybe some friendly fire too, but it at the very least softened up a lot of those Protoss units. And now all of a sudden there might just be enough for the Korean Terran player to push through this. There is a 4th base on the back of this too, so that one's fully mining. At least that's something Astrea can fall back to if he wants to. But at this point, while this was all going on, Terran has also managed to secure their own base at the 12 o'clock. I think that might be a little bit too much. Yeah, even the Viking lands right now. Okay, good game right here by Gumiho. Maybe a little bit late in the 3rd base. Once again, trying to get some cheeky damage done. But this at the very least shows that the man still has it. I mean, if we would win just by cheesing every game, that would be, you know, that would be less exciting. I mean, less impressive at the very least. But I think that this is going to be a Terran win. I mean, at this point, we're talking a 50 supply advantage. That Immortal had absolutely no chance of getting into this position. Maybe Astrea doesn't realize that this is now also 4-base Terran. Yeah. So if he thinks it's a 3-base all-in, just holding that is going to be enough. But there was already a 4 CC on the back of this. Alrighty. So that brings us to Lightshade LE. Game number 3 in this best-of-3 series. I wouldn't mind seeing Astrea play a little bit more of a cheeky game as well, right? But I guess he's very much so that quintessential defensive Protoss player. It's funny because Parting recently has been very successful in, for example, the GSL. Spoiler alert, I suppose, but he made it all the way until the semi-finals. Playing very cheeky builds. So basically the way it worked out for Parting in the GSL, he played very cheeky builds, taking down players like Solar and top-tier pro gamers, playing just hyper-aggressive, cheesy strategies for the most part, right? And then he went up against Dark. And Dark, I mean, I've casted a bunch of his games recently as well. You probably have noticed that Dark is absolutely on point, right? Dark is once again looking like he is in top-tier shape. Once again, like, Dark ended up winning, like, the World Championship Series once upon a time a couple years ago, and after that, you know, he was looking a little bit weaker. But once again, Dark is looking like he is absolutely unbeatable, right? So, Parting goes up against Dark in the semifinals, and Dark shuts down all of the stuff that Parting is trying to go for, and Dark ends up winning 4-0. It's like, yeah, it works great until you face someone who just doesn't die to stupid stuff. And then, you know, it might be harder to pull off. Anyways, what I'm trying to get at is that it's definitely possible to play very cheesy games of StarCraft and go very far. I wouldn't mind seeing Astrea mix in a little bit of that as well, but I guess he's just not that type of guy. It happens. It's fine. As someone who plays a ton of StarCraft, I'm not a big fan of playing against cheese. I don't play a whole lot of cheese myself either, but I do enjoy watching it. Yeah. Does that make me a bad guy? I'm not so sure. Anyway, second pylon once again in a natural expansion though, so I don't really expect any kind of cheesiness. Factory goes inside of the main base. Reaper's going across, and that means that once again, the probe, which knows the timing very well when that Reaper's supposed to pop. I think it's like 203 or 205 or so. Basically, you can go back in a little while later to confirm exactly what's going on. If that Marine was skipped, you could even scout a little bit more. You can't really leave very easily here, Mr. Reaper. Yeah, he's trying to make the best of it. I think the Reaper's done for. Can he at least scout the Twilight Council? That would be helpful for him. Not gonna happen. Just popped like a balloon with helium in it. Just exploded. Alright. So, I mean, Twilight Council Scout is nice, but it's not like this is... So you can use the Blink upgrade pretty aggressively, right? Like, for example, what we saw Astrea do in the previous game where he ended up sniping the combat shield upgrade. So obviously that's nice. That's what you can use the structure for. But more often than not, when we see blink coming up early, it's usually used more defensively. You can obviously park your stalkers on the other side of the map and try and poke and prod a little bit, but it's also really good at just intercepting medevac drops and all of that. Actually, don't forget about that, right? Astrea ended up losing, what was it, 20 workers in the first few minutes of the game, really? Like the first 8 minutes or so? If that wouldn't have happened, I think that previous game would have actually looked quite a bit differently, because, I mean, even though Gumiho also ended up losing quite a few workers there, he's still playing Terran. He can drop mules from the high heavens. Plus, he lost his quite late into the game, right? Workers early on, generally speaking, have more value. So he scouted around right there with that little Hellion, not getting a whole lot of work done, but once more spotted that everything is quite normal. Wouldn't be surprised at all if Astrea decides to go for a third base here very soon. Oh, wow. I'm not sure if I like that. Either way, he did see right here that the tech lab was green, so the green light right there was on in the tech lab. I guess it was on purpose. Giving up an adept right here just to make sure you know exactly what is going on. Banshee is going to have that cloaking field upgrade. Observers should be out in time, though. Okay, I was going to say, you don't want to rally that one across. Wait, is he going to... I don't know if I like this, Astrea. He's looking like he wants to get aggressive with Blink. I know this goes kind of counteractive to what I was saying earlier, but now all of a sudden, this Banshee that two-shots workers is going to have a grand old time. Second Banshee should show up as well. It's actually kind of late. I don't know why that one is so late. Yeah, once the shield battery finishes up, this is going to be way nicer. Okay. Yeah, with the shield battery done, it's much harder actually for this Banshee to kill workers. Unless you have two at once, then you can one-shot them. Anyways, here we go. Stalkers ready to go into the main base. Siege tank in the back though. 2 siege tanks even. That was a weird blink. I guess he tries to go after the command center at this point. You know what? Banshee, cloak. Okay, nice. Still does have the observer nearby though, so... Okay, Banshee does get picked off. Command center finishes, which is important, but he tries to actually go after it. Is he going to be able to get the kill ready on the command center? I think he will. Question is, how many stalkers are going to go down? Target fire down to weakened once. He does. 2 stalkers? 3 stalkers? Yeah, I guess that's a pretty good trade, huh? Yeah, that is a pretty fantastic trade. So the one time right here in the series that Gumiho decides to go for a quick third CC, he puts it in a very vulnerable position. And third CC 2.0 is apparently being placed in pretty much the identical spot. I would imagine... Like, Terran players are always a little bit stubborn when it comes to that, right? So the reason why they put it so close to the edge is because they want to, like, reduce the travel time right over here. That the command center has to fly when it's done, right? But, I mean, putting it over there would be so much safer, and it's going to cost you, like, literally a second and a half longer. Yeah, maybe I'm seeing crazy... maybe I'm saying crazy things, but... StarCraft is a game of greed, right? Greed is good most of the time. Unless it isn't. Third Nexus is quite late as well for Astrea, by the way, so it's not like he's getting a huge economical advantage out of this. But Gumiho is going to be quite a bit more defensive. So Barracks 4 and 5 are finishing up. It's going to be able to go for that pretty large amount of Terran units very soon. It's going to be difficult for the Protoss to push. 5 more gateways, though, right here on the left side of the main base. And then also the Templar Archives, once more researching the Psionic Storm upgrade. So this seems to be the go-to right here for Astrea. Protoss does have a couple of varieties as well of units that they can go for. But no Colossi in this game, no Disruptors. Just a good old standard High Templar opener. Alright. 2 missile turrets in the perimeter of the main. I think that the Prism will probably try and go into the main base. So there's actually quite a lot of vision right here for Astrea. You can see he's got like a nice diagonal line through the map. Knows exactly what's going on. This observer is very difficult to spot. So Gumiho probably won't notice that one. Stalkers are loaded up into the Prism here. I don't know if you can go in, my man. I feel like you can't. I mean, you can, but, like, it's a one-way trip. You could probably drop off the Stalkers over there. If you go through the center, though, I don't think it's going to be great. Alright, sensor tower over here confirms as well the location of some more of those Protoss units. Gumiho has also seen the prism right there, and again, yeah, Astrea did see the missile turret, so he decided to not commit. A lot of Storm available. It's a lot of High Templar, by the way. Okay, once again. The Space Wizards just tried to storm the mineral lines. Alright. Stalkers actually have... Ooh. Okay, have been dropped off in the main base, I guess. Wait, was it Zealots in there? I guess he may have replaced the Stalkers with Zealots. Either way, Gumiho doesn't know where the third base of the Protoss is at, so accidentally here he's gonna find a fourth instead. Loads of workers end up going down here in just a matter of seconds, and even though it's at the expense of a fourth base, I think that's totally fine. If this would have been the third base that was like fully up and running and mining, it would have been a bit of a problem. Zealots are gonna also be able to finish off that final engineering bay, and now all of a sudden this is a huge economical advantage right here for Astrea. Astrea is gonna be in an upgrade lead, and it seems like he's got enough splash damage as well left over to keep those Terran units at bay. There's a lot of siege tanks, by the way. There's 5 siege tanks over here. Yeah. If you can get them into a good spot, they can deal a lot of damage. Okay, he decides to morph in some additional Archons right now, too. So it's going to be High Templar, Stalkers, Zealots, and Archons. Relatively easy to control unit composition. I love that he's actually putting the High Templar in, like, key positions, too. So if Terran goes for an all-in right now, which is definitely an option. Yeah, look at this. They're going to have to go through this choke, or this one over here, or run up one of those ramps. The High Templar, even though they're very vulnerable out in the center of the map, they can deal a lot of damage, and I guess that's worth a potential sacrifice. 5th Nexus, though. I'm not sure if I agree with the 5th base. I feel like the 5th base might be a little bit greedy. Either way, I guess that's the way that Astrea wants to leverage his advantage in this game. Going for the Immortals once again, too. Archon, Immortal, Zealot, Storm. With some Stalkers as well, I suppose. Yeah, the Prism here is one of the hardest parts in this fight. So if you have the High Templar and Prisms, it's technically really good, but I don't want to tell you how often I've accidentally lost a Prism with all the High Templar in it because, you know, you make a little mistake and then all of a sudden they're gone. So what is Gumiho gonna go for? Well, here we go. Barracks 6, 7, and 8. There is a 4th Command Center finishing up. He's got a ton of tanks, by the way. There's also the +1 flyer upgrade here for Astrea, plus the Stargate. So he's setting himself up for that SkyToss transition if he wants to. I think he's mostly aiming right now to try and just prevent his opponent from getting a 4th base up at the preferred time. Couple of bio units over at the 5th Nexus. Maybe this is not so much a 5th, but more so like a backup 4th, you know? Like if one of the 4th bases ends up going down, you can kind of just transfer the workers to another spot instead. Okay, so there's vision on the map everywhere. This always is a bit dangerous to me because these Protoss units are expensive and you can't really replace them, right? This is usually the way that Zerg players like to approach it, where they kind of just sprinkle units all over the map. It can go horribly wrong if you're a Protoss player. The 3 Zealots, or rather the 3 Marines that we saw walking across now get picked off. Sensor tower over here will still give away the bleep bleeps. Yep. It'll see exactly what's going on right now. That is so many tanks! Oh my god, we're at 10 siege tanks right now. Here's the problem, though. Even though Astrea is posturing here like he wants to go for an all-out assault, he's got now 5 Stargates. I mean, they're not done yet, but they're gonna be done soon enough. Fleet Beacon is gonna finish up here, too. Was this scanned just now, by the way? No. So he doesn't actually know what's going on, the Terran player that is. Siege tanks are phenomenal against this ground-based Protoss army, but Astrea isn't looking to stay on a ground-based army for very long. Carriers are now on the production tab. They take a long time to build, but there's not really that many Terran units that shoot up. I mean, there's 34 Marines, which is quite formidable, I guess, but... It's It's gonna take them quite some time to deal with upgraded interceptors. At this point, Astrea's problem is that he can't produce out of all Stargates at once. He's got a few too many units. So maybe he wants to try and trade out a couple. Alright. Yeah, I don't like that. Either way, I guess now he has some supply left over to start up another one of these carriers right there in the 5th Stargate. I think a drop got cleaned up over in this area of the map too. Yeah, Astrea is look at the mini-map, right?
That mineral field's gone.
Oh my god. No, Astrea, I forgot that you play with the Diva announcer.
Terrible damage.
Oh my god. The Diva announcer is... You know, first off, why would you not play with the Lowko announcer pack, right? First off, right? I feel like that's obvious.
Time to raise your APM.
Anyways, if you're not gonna use the Lowko announcer for some odd reason, which, once again, I highly recommend, why would you run the Diva one? I know Astrea has been running it for years. Alright, well that was also not great. Good move right there by Gumiho, who's now maxed out. I'm a little concerned over Gumi. This is not something people did in 2019, did they? People didn't just, like, whip out a couple of carrier ships. If Gumiho thinks that this is going to be a ground-based Protoss army for, you know, the rest of the game,
Our SCVs
that would be quite bad. Okay, well this... If you didn't know, now he does.
Command center upgrade complete.
He's got double cybernetic scores also, by the way, researching everything. Storm's over here up north. Astrea ended up losing quite a large army there. Starts producing Vikings, Gumi that is. He's so aggressive with this army. It's a little bit scary to me whenever I see the entire Protoss armies moving around. Anyways, now that the carriers have been spotted, apparently it's time to go. Ground weapons level 3 is done. Terran's still sitting on 2-2. Air weapon armor level 1 is going to finish up very shortly as well. Interceptors have 80 hit points in total, so 40 shields and 40 health. EMPs right there do make it difficult for Astrea to commit for a little bit longer. Anyways, what I'm trying to get at is that these interceptor ships are quite tanky, actually. Oh my god. Ready to roll out, indeed.
Our forces are under attack.
Astrea sees this, though. These siege tanks are soaking up a lot of supply. Even though I think that would have been quite helpful in this fight. Apparently, they're going to go for the counter-attack instead. That's a lot of supply, though, of the Terran player that's caught on the other side of the map. Maybe he can kill a Nexus with it, which would be okay, I suppose. But reinforcing carriers are still coming up, too. Yeah, I don't know about this. I really don't. Like, even though the Zealots are doing a pretty good job, because if the siege tanks are just by themselves... Oh, this is... Yeah, no, that was not the move. That was... No. Ay. That was not the move. Even if the Zealots wouldn't have been enough, the carriers, right? Like, they would have been able to kill this just fine. There's a couple of them waiting over at the fourth of the Protoss player, rather, for a little bit. Anyways, I guess it does open up supply right here for Gumiho to make the switch. Snipes the Prism, so the High Templar are going to be without a private plane. This guy's very upset about it. Almost kills himself because of it. Zealot over there, very brave, trying to kill the Planetary Fortress, but it's not going to be enough. Alright. Tactical nuke! Oh. Alright. I like it. We'll see how this goes. I'm still a little bit concerned, though, because these are going to be so powerful. Once all of the upgrades are done for the carriers, they are so difficult to kill. Dark Shrine comes up, too. Astrea once again maxed out, by the way. Rather than adding on more carriers, I think he warped in additional gateway units. It's going to be a lot of income that will go down here for Gumiho over the next half minute or so, now that his mules have timed out. Charge has been utilized right now by the Zealots, so they're going to be on cooldown for at least a bit. I think we need more missile turrets. He's got a couple. High Templar coming in from the side. Throws a water balloon right there at one of the units and then casts the feedback skill right there on the Ghost. Storms are coming up right now on the Vikings. Ooh, Archons get underneath the Vikings as well, and they deal a ton of damage. He backs off right now, though, to the safety of the Planetary Fortress, though the Planetary at this point will also get picked off relatively easily. And this is where that Protoss Death Ball is so extremely powerful. Astrea ends up winning this game because those Vikings got picked off way too quickly. So there was a storm on them, and then the Archons got underneath and just absolutely zapped them into oblivion. So the Archons, they deal a small amount of splash damage in a relatively small radius, but since those Vikings were so clumped up together, Gumiho could not keep them alive. Alrighty, so Astrea ends up winning this Best of 3 series. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you did, hit that like button down below. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you want to see more, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you get notified as soon as future videos go live. For now, though, I want to thank you for watching. Have an awesome day. Don't forget to smile. And I'll see you once again in the next one.